Hey everybody! So today we're going to talk about the sun. Here's the card. And, so the planets are what energy needs to be expressed or wanting to be expressed. The house is where or what area of life this is expressed in. And the sign is how the energy is expressed. The planet or the sun is a what. It's what needs to be expressed. So the sun is at home in Leo. It's the planetary ruler of Leo. It is exalted in Aries, meaning it's probably at its, while it's very at home in Leo, obviously. Holy shit, that incense is going crazy. It's very at home in Leo and functions well there, obviously. It's probably at its highest functioning or highest potency in Aries. Now, it's also considered to be in detriment in Aquarius. Aquarius is opposite of Leo on the wheel. And it is considered to be in fall in Libra. Libra is opposite Aries on the wheel. Now, in terms of polarity. Now, why would that be? Well, not only because of the polarity thing, but think about it. Libra is a very partnership-oriented sign. This energy can express itself in a more partnership kind of way, in a more diplomatic way. And the sun, which is very much one's a big part of one's ego, if not, one of the main parts of the ego, if not just the ego, doesn't function quite as easily in a sign that is geared towards partnerships, right? And then it's in detriment in Aquarius. Aquarius is very other community focused. We'll say community focused. That's a better way to say that. And Aquarius there is an individualized quality to it, right? But because Aquarius energy at its highest vibration wants to encompass the whole community, sometimes the sun and its sense of ego can feel, and its need to express ego can feel like it can't do that as easily in Aquarius. So there's those. Wanted to start out with that. So, God, sorry. It's like, I don't know what the deal is. It's not even windy, but it's like coming over here and getting all up in my fucking space. Okay, so what does the sun want to express? Well, I already touched on ego. It is, it does want to express the ego, the ego of the person. Depending on what house the sun falls in, it might do this more or less easily. For instance, sun in the first house, and this depends on everything going on in the chart, obviously, but a person with the sun in the first house might have an easier time expressing this concept of ego versus, I don't know, somebody with the sun in the 8th or the 12th. They might have a more difficult time with it or in understanding it. Just a for instance. The sun is also vitality. The sun kind of, depending on, what sign the sun falls in, might tell you a little bit about the vitality of the person. You also want to take the whole chart into account, but for instance, with the sun being in detriment in Aquarius and in fall in Libra, people that have their sun in those signs, they might have a little less vitality than somebody who, say, had their sun in Leo or in Aries. where the sun is at home and exalted. Of course, that's not universal, but maybe, I don't know. It could happen. It could manifest that way. That's not but that's not universal. Now this energy is masculine. It does tend to align with masculine energy, with not necessarily, just masculine energy. Now, of course, that depends on other things going on in the chart, how this is expressed, but this is a more masculine planet. And this would be the case regardless of if you are male or female, or however you may choose to identify. Gender-wise, this is a masculine planet regardless. This planet does have an affinity for masculine energy. It also, like Saturn, it has an affinity, or I won't say affinity, it has a correlation with the idea of the father. Now, I wouldn't, like with the moon, like I mentioned with the moon, the moon being, having a correlation with the mother. Some people, when they ask questions and stuff on like our subreddit or other forums and things, some people tend to think that like the moon always represents the mother and like the sun always represents the father. That may or may not be the case in your chart. It definitely could, though. I wouldn't rule that out, but it definitely could, but not always. I wouldn't look at it as always being showing your father. Just like I wouldn't always look at Saturn showing your father, which is, that also has a correlation to fathering as well. I don't think it always does, but it certainly can. So there's that. I already mentioned ego, and vitality. So life force, that's another one that the sun wants to represent. There is such a brightness, which makes sense because the sun is very bright in the sky. There is such a brightness with the sun. The sun wants to express this brightness. Depending on where it falls in the chart, it might do this more easily or more difficultly. But there is definitely a brightness and a luminosity to to what the sun expresses. It needs to express this. Let's see. Creative potential. Creative potential is a good one. I was looking at the card to make sure I'm not missing anything. Creative potential. Self-expression. Obviously identity, which again goes along with the concept of ego and all of that. But I want to be careful with identity because I think that could be, well, not only because it's easiest to find out what your sun sign is, right? But I want to be careful with the concept of identity because while the sun is very much a part of your identity, it is not the whole package. It's not the whole thing. And I almost feel like this concept of the sun being identity is kind of why the notion of people just kind of knowing their sun sign and not knowing anything else. And I realize not everybody's going to be interested in this stuff, right? Interested enough to actually research it or learn about it, and that's fine. But there are clearly people that are interested in this, and all they do is fuck around with memes and and shit about their sun sign, and they're clearly interested in this, but it's almost like their whole concept of their astrological identity has to do with their sun sign. And I feel like some of that plays into this, that the sun is a major part of your identity, but it's not the full thing. So it also depends on, you know, what house it falls in, what aspects that it makes. All of that plays in, along with the whole fucking chart. So these are just some things that the sun wants to express. There are other things I didn't touch on here, but those are some of the big ones. Again, some of these things you may find aren't expressed quite as much. Some of them, all of them, you might find are expressed with the sun, depending on whatever chart you're weaving. Just kind of depends on the whole thing. All right. Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find us on Instagram at Let's Fuck with Astrology. I am at Saturn Season Astrology on Instagram. Natalie is at Abaternal Astrology on Instagram. If you're watching this on Instagram, you can find us on YouTube by searching for Let's Fuck with Astrology. If you do the Reddit thing, you can find us on the subreddit Let's Fuck with Astrology. And if you're interested in the star cards, you can go to letsfuckwithastrology.com/star-cards. Okay, everybody. I'll see y'all later.